Well, joining us now to break this down, F. Lee Bailey, defense attorney and author of Excellence in Cross-Examination. Also, former NYPD Sergeant Wally Zeins, a detective, once with the New York City Police Department. It's great to have both of you with us.
Thank you.
All right, Wally, the first question goes to you. Investigating this type of case now appears to be whether the officers were using unnecessary force. That's the crux of the investigation here. But I want to play a clip for you from a former officer and get your reaction to what he has to say on the back end. Let's take a listen.
A chokehold restraint is meant to suffocate the air out of an individual. This hold was more of the lines of a submission restraint.
So there you have. Are we parsing words here? Is that union representative parsing words, Wally?
Well, and the bottom line to the whole thing is the medical examiner's report is going to determine if, in fact, there was a high use of force. You got to remember one thing: when you make an arrest, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, it's necessary force to effect the arrest. But in this particular case, you got to remember that a picture's worth 1,000 words. The chokehold since 1993 has been not acceptable in the patrol guide, which is the Bible for the police department, NYPD, that all members of the service must follow. The other thing is, when you look at it and you see the emergency medical technicians that come onto the scene, the scene safety is very important, but there are some obligations under the health department that should have been done immediately, and that is airway breathing and circulation, and administer oxygen as quickly as possible.
And a lot of folks are questioning why it got to that point in the first place. F. Lee, let's bring you in here. I want to get your perspective based on this case here. We know, obviously, this guy moving ahead here is not going to face criminal charges because he's deceased here, but how does this impact other defense cases around the country when you're trying to build a jury pool?
Well, let me make it plain at the outset that I like cops. A lot of my good friends are cops, and I think by and large they do a great job for not enough money. But I'm afraid New York is flirting with another Rodney King. The video is very condemnatory. The offense is so picayune that the amount of force used looks unreasonable. And anytime you put a chokehold on someone, even though you don't suffocate him, you run the risk of cardiac arrest, especially someone as grossly overweight as Eric Garner.
And, based on seeing this video, just taking a look at the video without knowing a lot of what was going on in the periphery here, this, F. Lee, to you, and to you, I guess, Wally, you talked about the picture saying 1,000 words, but we'll start with you, F. Lee. These police officers, as you mentioned, the next Rodney King case, is that really a fair comparison?
Well, I think it is in a way. They've been caught breaking the rules, ganging up on a single guy, and in this case for a terribly petty offense. So, however, New York's community is quite different than Los Angeles. I do not expect an outbreak of rioting, but I do expect that the police commissioner will be urged to take some pretty strict action.
What about you, Wally? You think it's fair to compare this case to the Rodney King case?
No, not at all, because the Rodney King case, there was he took a real beating in that particular thing. They were using necessary force to effect the arrest in the sense that he was a 350-pound person and they had to try to cuff him, put handcuffs on him. But in relation to it, it's not a question because it's a misdemeanor or it's a felony. The person still broke the law and had to be arrested. In this particular case, and you look at it and you see the whole thing, and the chokehold is not admissible. But the bottom line to the whole thing is the medical examiner, the district attorney, the internal affairs, and also the detective investigating that particular precinct incident has to have all the facts together where the district attorney will make a determination if, in fact, that is going to go before the grand jury.
All right, fair enough. We'll leave that case there for the time being. I also want to talk about another situation, which is really on the opposite end of the spectrum of this conversation. And I want to warn everybody before we show this video that it is incredibly graphic. A woman laying on the side of the freeway is seen being mercilessly beaten in the head over a dozen times by an unidentified California Highway Patrol officer. Now, the investigators have seized the woman's medical records. F. Lee, what purpose will this serve in this type of investigation into this incident?
I'm sorry, was that question directed to me?
Yes, I'm sorry, Counselor. What type, seizing the medical records here, when a woman has been seen on video, captured on video, and as well as the trooper, in a situation like this, why would the investigators want to seize her medical records?
Well, I don't know whether they do or not. You tell me.
Well, that's what the reports are telling us, that they're trying to seize her medical records. Obviously, that might indicate they're trying to look at her mental stability in this situation, or perhaps defend the trooper.
Well, I think both. I think they're hoping to find that she is a kind of irrational person that has to be subdued with force in order to justify what is shown in the video. If I were the district attorney or counsel for the trooper, if he's been identified and charged, I would certainly want those records.
Well, of course, both of these issues are being used on this program and others on the other side of the political spectrum for discussion here. The Reverend Al Sharpton has weighed in on both incidents. Take a listen to the Reverend Al Sharpton's perspective, and we'll talk to both of you on the back end of this bite.
2 ghosts, 2 horrific tapes, and 2 terrible unjustified actions. Black people attacked by law enforcement, both caught on tape. In the 21st century, there's no doubt we've made tremendous strides, but we still have a long way to go.
Well, gentlemen, of course, we know Al Sharpton in the past has been one to throw fire or water on a grease fire, sometimes making the situation worse here. But Councilor F. Lee Bailey, what do you think about the Reverend's comments? Fair?
Well, I think the sad fact is that no one can help but notice that in Rodney King and these cases, the victim was black, the assailants were white. Now, that's a situation that has not gotten as much better as it should have by now, because the ingrained prejudice against certain races is still there.
And also, you know, Wally, there is some could say a different reality out on the streets today. There are criminals more willing to shoot police perhaps than they would be in the past. I think the incidents of officers dying on patrol are increasing as well here. Does any of that maybe justify some more of this aggressive behavior that we're seeing on camera?
Well, it's not a question of aggressive behavior. What I think it is, you know, in this day and age, you have to understand that police have better training, and it's not the training to go out there. For instance, the highway patrol officer having a conflict with that woman, she's an emotionally disturbed person. And the police departments today throughout the United States have procedures how to deal specifically with emotionally disturbed people. And those procedures have to be looked into to see if they were followed at that time. You know, you call certain units to come and assist you in a situation like that. You just don't go there and grab a person and start assaulting them. So that has to be looked in by the internal affairs of that particular department. But yes, things today have changed. Law enforcement is much better trained than it has been in the past, and there is sensitivity training in every department where they look upon you know, race, creed, and color. And race, creed, and color should not step into the fact of using excessive force in any police department.
And I think everybody can agree about that. And whether these particular incidents say more about what's happening on a broader scale across the country, or they are just so important to talk about because we have video to prove what took place in these 2 cases, that remains to be seen. Fair enough?
Very fair. And I'd just like to say one other thing. In this day and age, you have everyone with iPhones and cameras. They're more like war correspondents. You get a situation in the street, in the public place, everyone is taking a picture.
All right, fair enough. Wally Zeins, former NYPD police detective, also F. Lee Bailey, defense attorney. Always great to have you both with us on the program, and thanks for breaking this down. Of course, much more ahead. We're going to continue to talk about the immigration crisis and Florida Senator Marco Rubio. His comments expressing compassion for the children coming across the U.S. border, but a stern warning that America cannot absorb this crisis. His 3-step immigration plan ahead.